Hey everyone, this is Yogi. Thanks for checking out Grubstakers, the podcast about billionaires. Today we're going to be covering Ramdev Baba, the Patanjali guru, the Jack LaLanne of India, the man that my mom and many other Indian people love. Unfortunately, I'm now going to be exiled from India, so enjoy this episode. It was a sacrifice on my part.
I think we disproportionately stop whites too much.
I taught those kids lessons on product development and marketing, and they taught me what it was like growing up feeling targeted for your race.
I am proud to be gay. I am proud to be a Republican.
You know, I went to a tough school in Queens, and they used to beat up the little Jewish boys.
You know, I love having the support of real billionaires.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello, welcome back to Grubstakers, the podcast about billionaires. Sean P. McCarthy here, joined by
Steve Jeffries,
Andy Palmer,
Yogi Polywall.
And this week we're taking a look at Baba Ramdev. This is our first Indian billionaire we're looking at, you know, until we do our Yogi Polywall episode.
This episode was requested by 1 billion people, Sean.
Baba Ramdev is...
one for each dollar.
Yeah. And his net worth is... It's I guess controversial to call him a billionaire because
yes it is.
As a what's his exact title, or a Baba, that's his religious title, or
so it's less religious and more he's a spiritual guru, healer, practitioner, doctor, dancer, wrestler. It's not technically speaking he does everything, but I think Baba is the best way to put it.
Right. But so Forbes in 2016 estimated his net worth at about $2.5 billion. But he himself has told Bloomberg his net worth is, quote, zero. And then he also told the New York Times that he doesn't even have a bank account because he abides by the monk's vow of austerity and chastity, though the company that he is a co-founder of, which we will talk about in a minute, apparently takes care of like all his expenses.
Yeah.
And like this New York Times reporter went out to visit him, and he's like in this mansion with like armed guards and stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, like just like
who are just there,
right?
Right.
Just like
For other purposes.
anybody with net worth zero lives behind a fence with armed guards.
Right. Oh, you know how the nicest people in the world have armed guards at their side at all times?
You know, I have just realized prisoners do technically qualify under that definition.
I was going to say.
Baba Ramdev, the New York Times has also compared him to the American preacher Billy Graham because of, you know, he was a political preacher, essentially. Just quoting from the New York Times, Ramdev has been compared to Billy Graham, the Southern Baptist firebrand who advised several American presidents and energized the Christian right. The parallel makes some sense. Ramdev has been a prominent voice on the Hindu right and his tacit endorsement during the 2014 campaign helped bring Prime Minister Modi to power, the current Prime Minister of India.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that televangelism is a very perfect example of how Ramdev Baba advertises who and what he is. We'll get more into this in a moment. But the reality is that he has a large platform where he's talking to an international community at this point, whether it's Indians in India or outside. There's a lot of followers of his brand and his entity, and he has a lot of sway politically because he is a self-proclaimed no value, no net worth, no anything. And it's like, wow, I'll follow that guy to the end of the world. But what does that really mean, America?
Well, it's interesting. Like in the New York Times, I read this New York Times long piece about him. I'll link to in the Tumblr. I believe it's the secret billionaire yogi behind Modi's rise, the other one. And but so the piece, like they quote a bunch of people on background because it seems like a lot of people in India, even like powerful business people, are just straight up afraid of the dude.
Yeah, I think so.
So.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we are complicating Yogi's return to India with this episode.
Well, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are they afraid he's going to do? Like, calm them down way too much?
They think they're going to force him to do yoga, man. Breathing exercises. Watch the fuck up, bro.
Backwards.
I do not want to breathe through my sternum.
He's going to do his wrestling moves on them. But no, so there was, and again, we'll get to this later, there's a biography on him that was banned last year in India.
Right.
And the biographer ties him to 3 mysterious deaths that, again, he's not been charged with anything, but these may or may not have been people that he conceivably had murdered. So we'll talk a bit more about that.
Or
but
super calm.
They are not dead. They are just.
Or maybe we won't talk about it. We can rethink this entire project. Right, guys?
I like the idea of him like having them murdered and then reincarnated as something really shitty. It's like, yeah, not only did his goons shoot you to death, but then they made you an earthworm.
Right.
But so I guess
the other thing about Ramdev Baba is that like he's not just a televangelist; he's also like a Jack LaLanne type.
Right.
He is a spiritual healer who talks about Ayurvedic methods of breathing exercises and yoga, and this is the part that unfortunately is good about him. He does preach healthy lifestyle habits that can make you more flexible and make you live longer.
Right. Well,
like being straight.
He is adamantly against homosexuality, and he believes that yoga can cure homosexuality, which many people in the West would argue the opposite.
But he also believes that like breathing exercises can cure hypertension,
Right.
And HIV.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he believes yoga can
that's
cure
how I cured it.
HIV, cancer.
Yeah. So I mean, although that
Maybe
there
he believes yoga can cure HIV by making you not gay anymore.
but breathing deeply and stretching are in general really good for you.
I mean, that's the thing.
So
that's
Yeah.
like it's
there's like a kernel of wisdom.
yes.
But who's gonna pay you billions of dollars to be like, yeah, just breathe deep and stretch. You'll feel better.
He's very popular.
Yeah.
Like, people love him. I was in Manhattan. I took a cab here, and the guy was a Sikh. He was from Punjab. And I asked him, hey, do you know Baba Ramdev? He's like, of course. Like, he was mad.
Forget about it.
He thought I didn't know about this guy. He was like, what are you, not brown? Look at you. I'm like, what? Of course I know this guy.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. And again, like I read the New York Times long profile. There's also a Bloomberg profile of him. And both of them essentially make the argument that kind of his yoga practices, he uses it as a way to impart Hindu nationalism,
right.
Where he ties yoga into these ancient Hindu traditions and says, like, this is how we get the Western colonizers out, and this is how we separate ourselves from, the Muslims, among others. So it is kind of just like a way of, the yoga and the breathing exercises might be perfectly fine, but he kind of wraps them in a nationalist cloak of like, this is what makes us Indian, this is what makes us Hindu, and better than others,
Which is what I've been saying all along, so I don't know why I'm not a billionaire as well.
It explains why all my exes really hated Pakistan.
But so I guess we can talk quickly about the company that he co-founded, and then we'll kind of go through his biography in general chronological order. So the company is called, and I'm glad Yogi is here to make fun of me as I attempt this, Patanjali Ayurved.
I don't think you need Yogi here to make fun of you for that pronunciation.
It's like you got it not wrong, but you did it so slow because of your fear. It's Patanjali.
Yeah. No, I like that. I just pronounced it like a condescending white girl on vacation. Is it Patanjali Ayurved? He repeated to his concierge in the hotel who despises him. But yeah, so Patanjali, and so this is a company that he co-founded with a guy named Acharya Balkrishna, and Acharya is actually a verified billionaire on Forbes.
Right.
So this is, again, Baba Ramdev's co-founder of this company. And according to Forbes, this guy, Acharya, has a $6.9 billion net worth U.S. dollars as of July. And that's because Acharya owns 98.6% of the company Patanjali. 98.6% because, of course, Baba Ramdev, because of his vow of austerity or poverty or whatever, can't really officially own the company.
Right.
But again, from these New York Times, Bloomberg profiles, it's pretty clear that almost everybody within the company defers to him.
Yes.
And treats him as like the actual leader of it.
In one of the Forbes profiles I saw on him, that there was a building that was one of his partners, and in every room there's a giant portrait of Baba Ramdev, and that's like straight dictator.
Yeah.
I own the fucking universe type of shit.
It's not a cult.
No. And here's the thing. I, had a vested interest of like, hey, are my parents dabbling in a cult? Because it seems like it can be. And from our stereotypes of what a cult are in this country, it's a brown dude telling you to stretch before you have punch. Like, I mean, like that's what we look at it as. And
well, that was basically what Rajesh Puram was.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just that Ramdev, unlike Rajesh Puram, didn't
Can you
have...
explain Rajesh Puram?
Rajesh Puram was a movement that came out of India. I guess Rajesh was the name of the guy.
I believe it's Rajneesh.
Rajneesh was the name of the guy who started it. And then eventually they decided that they were going to form their own quasi-Jonestown in Oregon. And they tried to make their own town. Just watch Wild Country on Netflix.
Yeah, the Netflix doc is about, yeah.
Yeah, and then they ended up, while trying to disenfranchise, they tried to get this vote to make a town theirs both by importing homeless people and then also poisoning salad bars in the local town so that the locals couldn't vote.
Right.
And then they ended up... they decided that the homeless people were too problematic and would like just drop them off outside of vans, and if anyone argued, they'd point guns at them.
I haven't seen Wild West Country yet, but I do know because I've read some of that stuff because my parents. That guy later on goes by Osho, and his writings are very interesting as well.
Yeah.
But a
he
part of
didn't
that
come across that bad compared to like this one lady.
Well,
who was like,
right.
You mean Ariana Huffington?
who was a follower of Rajesh Puram.
Right. A part of some of the issues with that was that white Oregon residents were like, fuck this noise.
Oh, yeah.
Brown people living life and preaching spirituality and shit, not in my
Yeah.
fucking neighborhood. So there is, I mean, they did some of the members did some very fucked up things, including poisoning and the homeless people stuff. But a good chunk of the racism that they dealt with was also part of the reason why it was so unfortunate.
Yeah, no one really came out of that documentary looking good, except... interestingly enough, like the leader looked okay, at least compared to like all the horrible people.
No, but you know what? There's a lot of like sex scandals. The thing is that these
That's
people
true.
do this thing, and one thing I really want to address on this podcast episode is that like, yeah, Ramdev Baba does some terrible things and some okay things, but it's not him that you should necessarily worry about. But it's copycat people like them that have even more malicious intent. Because right now, this guy, has over $1 billion net worth from making products and claiming that he doesn't own the company when he really does, so that he can advertise them without having to pay taxes on it. Like, it's such a beautifully, hurdled loopholes of what's going on. But I mean, think about how many people in the U.S. can be swindled by, I don't know, like an Alex Jones type. Like,
Yeah.
it's the same fucking thing.
Oh,
Billy
absolutely.
Mays.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, and so just to circle back to the company Patanjali, they got, according to the New York Times, $1.6 billion in sales in fiscal year 2017. Interestingly enough, like to show you the sway, in May 2017, there was a survey of consumers in India reporting that Patanjali was the most trusted brand in the entire country.
Yep.
And this is after we'll kind of get into, but there have been a couple different scandals as to, among other things, human DNA being in the products. And again, from the New York Times, studies have found some of the products contain toxic levels of heavy metals, usually from soil or ash in the mix. And so...
the human DNA thing doesn't really bother me because the thing about DNA is like if someone's handling it, there's going to be human DNA.
Well, it was
doesn't necessarily mean they're throwing people in the meat grinders.
But the heavy metals, though.
Yeah, the heavy metals, though, that's fucked up.
And Modi himself has endorsed this. Prime Minister Modi of India has said, "Ramdev's herbs help you overcome all problems."
Oh my God.
End quote.
Oh my God.
But so I guess if we want to get into his general biography, and then we'll kind of circle back to Hindu nationalism. Baba Ramdev is, according to the New York Times profile, he was born in a poor farm family. Both his parents were farmers, and they believe he was born in 1965. But it is interesting where like nobody for sure knows exactly when he was born. He grew up in poverty, and he's kind of kept a lot of his early life shrouded in secrecy.
when he was born, the medical records in India are not, well, they haven't been as well kept as they are in this country. So that's also a reason why they don't know how old he is.
But we do know that he worked in the fields from the New York Times, and he suffered a series of like different accidents and illnesses. He has a scar on his forehead from a fall when he was 3 or 4 years old. He fell into a pond and nearly drowned, and then he got an illness that paralyzed the left side of his face, giving him like a permanent kind of squint, which apparently the other kids mocked him for.
Those Indian kids, man, they see an ailment, they'll go at you, man.
I mean, it is pretty funny.
What if they're like, the kids were like, no, we were punching up because we knew he would become a billionaire,
right.
possibly corrupt, linked to 3 murders.
He's
so
in
you
the warrior
see-
cast, so
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah, that's right. His cast, we believe, is Yadev, which is
Devangari is the name, yeah.
yeah.
So what are the casts?
Brahman's the highest.
Brahman's the highest. There are, I believe... Man, why we gotta be talking about caste on this fucking podcast?
Because we're talking about this
because
guy's
we
cast.
agree with it.
Yeah,
in
I
Brazil.
know. Man. It's a weird thing to talk about.
It is
Because
pretty
we want
weird
to
when
institute it in the U.S.
Yeah, when we're talking about those countries that have other systems rather than economic net worth to divide people into castes.
All right, so
If
there's-
if anyone's wondering, like the social context here, Yogi's got Brahmin guilt.
Whoa! Why we gotta air my dirty laundry in the fucking podcast, huh?
Well, we could circle back to the castes, but it is like something that's been talked about is how Baba Ramdev, because he was of a lower caste, kind of helped the Hindu nationalist parties such as BJP appeal to mid-caste and lower caste people when they were traditionally primarily supported by the higher caste, the Brahmin and such.
So Brahmins is the top, and then his class, the Kshatriyas, is second, and then it's Vaishyas, which is farmers, traders, and merchants. Shudras, the laborers, and then Dalits, who are the untouchables, the outcasts.
Wait,
so
he's the second cast?
he's second highest, yeah.
So it's sort of like, the car dealership owner appealing to working class people on behalf of the Republicans.
Yeah.
It's more like the king's warriors are telling the peasants and the untouchables and the merchants, listen to us, we know better than the king.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not taking any of that shit from a sports authority manager.
But what they're also saying is, as a small business owner,
Yeah, sure. Well, that is one of the things where Patanjali, like the big claim about it was like, the people were very critical and they ridiculed what they were trying to do, but they were like, fuck Colgate. Like they came out swinging, And because a large population of the fans of Baba Ramdev are so indoctrinated in his everything, even if the product, let's say, was 50 times shittier, let alone, FDA issues, like let's say it was like literally the worst shit ever, I don't even think these people would bother. They would be like, well, I love this shit, so I'm going to rock this shit. I mean, like, it's just branding. They love him, and they love the stuff that he makes.
Well, yeah, it is interesting. Again, to go back to the economic nationalism. So he appeals to nationalism to sell his products by, tying, Colgate or these other internationals to, like, the British East India Company and saying, these multinationals are, like, poisoning people in India, which, I mean, they are. But, he had just, like, this fun quote that he said, the company Patanjali will, quote, shut the gate in Colgate. It will make the birds in the Nestle logo fly away.
Yeah.
Just like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's very, like, poetic type of, like, we can be stronger than them when we're together, but really it's give me your money, what tiny amount of money you have, so I can have armed guards and promote peace.
So you're saying
Right.
his slogan could be "Onward Together"?
Yeah, I think it could.
And so just to kind of continue on this biography, he, according to the New York Times, he read about yoga in a book. He told the New York Times, and then he started practicing it in order to fortify his weak body because of, these childhood illnesses and the like. And he says as a teenager he left home for a gurukul. Do Do you know what that is, Yogi?
It's basically like a training school for people that want to go down the Ayurvedic road of becoming yogis and spiritual healers and stuff, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And again,
it sounded like guru call, which is like we got to call the gurus there.
I mean, essentially, it's where they learn to be better, you know? It's a type
They're
of...
eating all the crops.
This is from Wikipedia. This is a type of residential education system in ancient India. So it's like boarding school for spirituality. That's what a gurukul is.
You got to bring like 10 people to watch you be a guru.
Hey, we got a bringer gurukul coming out here. $5 cover, 2 drink minimum, but you know it's a good show.
Oh.
All right, so
being a guru is like 90% grinding.
But so, and again, according to the New York Times and other publications, the kind of this space in his life is kind of blank from when he leaves home as a teenager in the late 70s, early 80s. Ramdev meets his business partner Balkrishna around 1990 when they were both students at a traditional religious school in the north of India. This is according to Bloomberg. Ramdev became a teacher, but according to an authorized biography, he actually left his job in remorse after an incident in which he savagely beat a student.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They don't really elaborate on that, but...
Yeah, this article from the Times of India talks about...
You're not zen enough!
It says that he was so inspired by... See, here's the thing. So, like, that thing that Sean just said, I'm literally reading propaganda that says opposite. The propaganda I'm reading right now says that he was so moved by the writings of Dhanyanad Saravasti that he quit the government school as the curriculum was left over and just fled. It's like, he really just ran out?
I just feel like you shouldn't breathe through the top of your lungs in his presence. That just sets him off.
In this article, they open with like, when he picks up the phone, he doesn't say hello. He just says Om, and it's like, go fuck yourself. It's not impressive.
Through his business partner, Balkrishna, they meet a yoga teacher called Karamveer Maharaj, who this yoga teacher accepts Ramdev as a protege on 2 conditions, and this is in the early 90s. The 2 conditions are that he remains celibate and that he never accept money if he began to give lessons himself, Baba Ramdev. And they would later have a falling out over this. But according to Bloomberg...
You fuck too much.
According to Bloomberg, the 3 of them, they journeyed to the Himalayas where they meditated in caves. And then in 1995, they took over the operation of an ashram in Haridwar. And Yogi, if you could just explain what an ashram and Haridwar is.
An ashram is essentially a spiritual location where they have a guru and that person lives there and operates out of there. And then spiritual people that want to like become more spiritual will do the work of an ashram while learning from the leader of the monastic community, basically.
Right. So they opened this ashram in 1995, the 3 of them, and then Ramdev starts teaching yoga around this time. And what happens is they also start peddling these homemade herbal pills from their clinic at the time. It was a small clinic. But according to Bloomberg, or according to the New York Times, the breakthrough came in 2002, which is when a religious TV channel offered to broadcast Ramdev's yoga classes.
Right.
The way Bloomberg tells it is that they were seeking like a yoga class instructor, or a different channel, I think, was seeking a yoga class instructor, and then they picked someone else. So Ramdev actually managed to raise money from his followers to buy airtime to put himself on a competing program. And then he was so popular that he was able to get picked up from that.
Rise and grind.
Yes.
So 2 things. One, the Haridwar is just a city that where the ashram is. And secondly, this is like Bob Ross doing The Joy of Painting, and then Andy being like, fuck Bob Ross. I'm going to buy the block of time that Bob Ross is on and do my own painting show. And for some reason, people going, I like this Andy guy more than Bob Ross.
I like the way Andy keeps painting Master Chief from Halo having sex with Sonic the Hedgehog.
I mean, you have to be able to explain how Sonic is pregnant and my other things.
But But I mean, so like he hoodwinked
He
his
like
way.
Andy makes like a small mistake. It's like, oh, we're just gonna turn this into a Knuckles blowing Sonic in the corner here.
This live stream is DeviantArt.
I mean, but like this is the beginning of the like smiminess of Ramdev. It's like they chose a different yoga instructor, and he's like, "Fuck that noise."
Right.
My followers give me money so I can produce a program and compete with them. But this paid advertisement strategy is one he utilizes to this day.
And so, like, according to the New York Times, he becomes a star because he like charms audiences with his like mobile eyebrows, his giggles, his trademark stomach muscle routine. I guess he like moves his stomach muscles around.
Yeah, he does this breathing exercise, and he really like brings his gut in. And it's Steven, you watched it earlier. What do you think?
You ever played his Dalsum?
Yes, I played as Dulce. Yeah.
He does that.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. He knows his shit, and I hate that the part that I justify in Ramdev is the part that like science debunks from time to time.
Yeah.
Because the other side is pretty clear cut. He is a piece of shit from time to time. However, these breathing exercises have some medical relevancy that we might not understand. And Dalsum could breathe fire, and he was really stretchy, and yeah, I loved him.
My takeaway from this is just like, oh, I should go back to the gym and get abs. Abs are powerful.
Yes. If you have abs, you could become a billionaire.
Yeah.
All right, so like 2002, he kind of like starts getting on television, and it is interesting. Again, according to this New York Times article, I didn't know this, but like around this time, relatively few Indians actually did yoga, even though was, very popular in the United States and among Hollywood pedophiles. And But so he kind of brought it to like middle class Indians, where yoga was more viewed as like an upper class kind of thing. And he, like speaks in, according to the New York Times, speaks in this down to earth, playful language. And, he kind of like,
he's very charismatic.
Right. Yeah.
And he brought something that was traditionally done by, priests and noblemen to the working class. I mean, it's the same thing that happened with chocolate. If you think about it historically, like it was something that only the richest of the rich got to use, and now most of us are diabetic. And but the same thing happened with yoga. Its popularity in the United States was kind of odd because it wasn't popular in India when it was starting to boom here in the late 90s.
Oh, it boomed in America. Oh.
Yeah, in the 90s in America it boomed, and then he helped it take off in the early 2000s in India.
He just looked at the figures from how many smoothies were being sold. I'm going to get on that train.
But so, yes, his empire kind of takes off around 2002 once he starts getting his regular program to, do his yoga routines, and then through that he's also able to advertise his company.
And once again, these aren't programs that a company's putting on that they're paying him for. He's paying for the airtime and then self-producing this content. Mm-hmm. I mean, it might be slightly different now. I don't know exactly. But the reality is that it's not like a cable network was like, hey, you got a great thing. Let's put you on. He is paying for advertising of himself, and that allows him to legally advertise his Patanjali products during his program as many times as he wants with zero regulation and zero oversight.
Right. And so in 2005, this is when things kind of start to change for him. So they're raking in a ton of money by 2005. And in 2005, according to Bloomberg, Indian authorities raided the pharmacy that they were selling out of as part of a tax evasion investigation. But so a local official told the biographer who just wrote this biography that got on him that got banned last year, a local official told the biographer that he was ordered by his superiors to desist from this investigation. He said, quote, "Too many people in power were protecting Ramdev. I came to my senses and left." So essentially they raided his company in 2005 for tax evasion, but he had friends in the government who were like, no, this goes away now. And just the other thing that happens in 2005 is his mentor, we mentioned the guy who made him take this pledge of chastity and austerity, he also leaves because he sees that Baba Ramdev is kind of changing his tune a little bit. He actually has a pretty good quote.
Well, power corrupts all. And I mean, the fact that his mentor was like, bro, I got to go. I mean, it's pretty indicative of how he broke whatever bond that they had that got him the strength to be the person he is now.
So his mentor, Karimver Maharaj, he says this, and again, he says this to his biographer. He says, quote, "Idealism is easy when you have nothing. It's what you do when you have fame, money, or power that matters."
Wow.
And this will become relevant if our podcast ever becomes successful.
This will never become relevant for us.
That's dope. So Tupac said that?
Yeah. But so, yes, his mentor leaves in 2005. And then, like, this is according to around 2006, he goes to Britain, Baba Ramdev does, where he required a $20,000 donation for a home visit to people to do his little yoga instructions. And he stood on
Does he offer snacks?
When he
does
did
now.
when he did like public performances, he stood on a cloth that could be rolled up easy to collect the money people threw at his feet. So he's very clearly, at least at 2006, 2005, by the latest, he is full-on capitalist mode.
Yeah.
I mean, if people are throwing money at you while you're rolling up your cloth, like, what are you supposed to do? Throw it back? No one's got time for that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's very easy for us to say, like, man, this dude who accepted the money people were giving him for teaching is shitty, but, man, if it's...
No, when we set up our Patreon, we will refund all the money.
We own nothing. People are throwing money in our direction.
We don't know what's
and
going
whoever's running the Patreon collects it.
The IRS
and then
believes
shows it to us.
that we need to pay money on this money. We don't believe any money has ever existed. In fact, the entities above us are not real at all. Neither is this conversation. You're listening to nothing.
I'm just picturing him cartoonishly, like, carrying his cloth, rolled up cloth over his shoulder with, like, money spilling out the back.
And then
just walking by a tax collector and being like, "It's just my cloth."
And he wears, like, traditional garb, so he looks like a dude that's a beggar next to people in suits being like, "Here's all my money."
But so, and then the other thing is, like, we can talk about his company a little bit, but this is the other weird thing about his company is essentially his workers are kind of horrifically underpaid because he encourages them to...
You mean horrifically enlightened?
So basically, this is from Bloomberg. A Hindu guru is often a figure of absolute authority to his followers, and Patanjali employees treat Ramdev as such. He forbids them to eat meat or drink alcohol. He tells them that their labor is a form of sewa, or spiritual service, and expects some of them to accept lower salaries as a result. And the New York Times says that Patanjali reportedly pays 25 to 50% less than its competitors. So again, I mean, this is a...
So he's running a startup.
Yeah, but this is where he's making the money. He's not paying them as much. He's advertising through his advertising, and he's raking in the money because he doesn't pay taxes on it.
He's just a really good panhandler, okay?
Yeah,
we can't compensate you, but this is very important work we're doing. We're innovating. We're thought-fluencing.
Listen,
he has a cardboard sign that says "Need a miracle," and there's like $10 million being thrown at him.
I'm imagining an employee explaining to his wife, like, I mean, like, the wages are kind of low, but the non-wage benefits, such as reincarnation, are very positive.
Listen, we're going to need you to bark for this ashram. We can't give you money, but there's good exposure.
So, this kind of comes to a head. All his greed and kind of problems start to appear in 2005. In 2005, a quarter of Patanjali's workers go on strike, claiming they've been underpaid. And they actually had assistance from the Communist Party of India in this, which is partly, might have something to do with why Ramdev absolutely hates the Communist Party of India.
Yes.
Well, they're also big upper chest breathers.
But so a quarter... 25% of his workers go on strike in 2005, and then Ramdev and Balkrishna fire all of them in response to this. And so, but around this time...
Very, very positive. Remove the negative energy.
Around this time, some of the workers had kept samples of... this is from New York Times. Some of the workers had kept samples of the firm's medicines and said they contained unlisted ingredients, including crushed human skulls. I guess this is... residue from soil or ash, And so, yes, a government lab tests the samples from the workers and finds both human and animal DNA. And then Ramdev says, quote, powerful interests were tampering with the samples. They submit another sample to the government, which comes back clean, of course, and then this thing kind of goes away. And and they also
but they were also very ineffective.
Yes.
You got to have that skull in there.
And also, like, this was an interesting thing because the workers were kind of put on the defensive, where they had to clarify that they weren't attacking, traditional Indian medicine. They were just attacking his products because BJP and some other people started, saying the workers are like Westerners or whatever, or saying that, Indian medicine is bullshit or whatever. So all these kind of like slanders, and eventually he's able to triumph over his striking workers.
That's my favorite line of bullshit, is the idea that like scientific medicine must be Western.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like the Maoist thing where, they couldn't afford medicine. And so Mao's party basically just created traditional Chinese medicine, which didn't exist as a thing before Mao.
Well, we talked about this during the pharmaceutical episode, but so there's this copyright issue with medicine that the Indian government has turned their back on and decided to make their own generics. And so the medicine that's westernized in India is being made illegally. So this supposed Western medicine that sucks, it's like, yeah, it's medicine you're stealing. Like, it's like, yeah, of course this medicine's not going to be as good as the real stuff.
Though, also, good on them for not paying attention to the,
Listen, the law
the
is
patents.
if your country's in crisis, you can make whatever medicine you want. And India's like, we're always at crisis, baby.
Mao's traditional Chinese medicine, massive starvation caused by sparrows.
Just intermittent fasting, dog.
Yeah.
And not showering ever.
So according to the New York Times, retention is still kind of a problem. Like many workers leave Patanjali after a year or less. As we mentioned, they're paid 20 to 50% less than their competitors because it's considered, religious service. And then an executive at Patanjali said on background to the New York Times that autonomy is very low at the company. Ramdev is very hands-on. There's no doubt who's in charge. He's a micromanager. And, people think he's an autocratic boss behind the scenes, despite his kind of bubbly public personality.
I just feel like Ramdev Baba and Mark Cuban would be great friends. Like, I just really feel that'd be like really broing out,
Also, the second someone in a company talks about retention, it is an immediate flag that company is shitty.
I like the idea of Mark Cuban being like, I have zero net worth.
Yeah.
But like all the worst places I've worked have talked about retention.
That's how you end up with your skull and being in the medicine. You talk about unionization too much. And so I guess there's a couple other things to talk about with regards to Baba Ramdev. But in 2011, he launches these anti-corruption hunger strikes. Dark money, or black money, was a big problem in India.
Why is it got to be black? We have fun here.
Why's it got to be in India?
For our listeners that don't know, black money is just counterfeit money. That's
right.
Often either literally fake or also untraced because it's there haven't been taxes being paid on it. A lot of land purchasing or real estate purchases in India are done via black money because you have more of it because you're not paying taxes on it.
And India has a longer history of using a higher proportion of cash for all of its commerce than like the U.S. or Britain or anywhere.
Unfortunately, we don't have that here in America. By the way, Yogi, great view of Hudson Yards.
But yeah, so he launches this hunger strike anti-corruption campaign in 2011. And so he goes on a fast and a major protest in New Delhi at June 4th. He goes on, and so I think like 65,000 people gathered for his like protest, hunger strike. And then the Indian police cracked down violently on this. They said because he only had a permit for like 5,000 people to do yoga.
Wow.
Yeah. And this was kind of widely condemned. One woman was killed. The Indian police unleashed, tear gas and clubs and everything and dispersed the crowd.
I mean, that many people doing yoga. It's you don't know what's going to happen.
But so interesting story from this, and he was kind of
too much concentrated inner energy.
He was mocked a little bit in the Indian press because when the police cracked down, he attempted to flee the scenes dressed as a woman. So there are pictures of him in like woman's clothing with this giant beard and stuff. But I just like the idea that his like escape is like a Dustin Hoffman movie.
Right.
But so yes, like, and it's interesting where he does this, big anti-corruption, hunger strike, fast, whatever, and he raises his profile a lot doing this, and then as part of this, the governing party in India obviously detests him at this point because he's called them out for corruption. So he initially says he's going to found his own political party,
right,
and he makes some noise like he's going to do that. But then instead he kind of falls in with the BJP, which is the India's People's Party, which is what Prime Minister Modi is part of and is kind of, a right-wing Hindu nationalist party in India.
So you got a Koch brother.
Right.
Yeah, seriously.
And so he kind of helps the BJP campaign, and then the corruption angle is interesting because according to New York Times and others, after the BJP won in 2014, they started giving him a ton of support. According to the New York Times, Patanjali was given a 1,200-acre parcel of land in the eastern state of Assam at no cost. Assam is, of course, the state where this massive Muslim disenfranchisement list has just kind of come up. Assam was recently taken over by the BJP, and then a Reuters investigation found several discounted land sales and leases in 3 other Indian states that saved the company a total of $46 million. So it's kind of interesting where he's this anti-corruption campaigner, but then as soon as the BJP comes into power, they're giving him all these kind of handouts, as is understandable they would, because he was a big force in helping turn out people to vote for the BJP and Modi.
Right. Well, that's just favors returning favors.
I'll scratch your back if you scratch my back.
Yeah, that's not corruption.
They also, New York Times says that the Modi government has allowed him to kind of ignore laws regulating the harvest of medicinal plants.
Yep.
So,
I mean, this is the thing about this guy. Like, on paper, he's not doing bad things, but the reality is he's...
No, that sounds like he's doing bad things.
They
yeah, but he's really relaxed while he's doing it.
He's like McConaughey, he's just hanging out. He's having a fun time. Sure, some people get hurt in the process, but isn't everything all right when you're with McConaughey?
And then the other thing, like while he was campaigning, this is according to Bloomberg, so he helps.
Still stuck on where did they get those skulls?
Incidentally, I learned this from my friend's mom, who was a doctor. She said a lot of the skulls you see in various medical facilities are from India.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
That's some of that British Enlightenment for you.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. It genuinely is. Hey, where's there a lot of skulls at? Well, I know there's Browntown. There's a whole bunch of skulls over there. Get some of them. We'll sell them for 80% markup. 80, let's do 130% markup.
They're like, where'd that mass grave come from? Well, let me tell you the story of the time the Raj wanted a cup of tea from the other side of town.
I mean, really, though, like, how much is a skull worth to you, Andy? How much would you pay for a skull?
I can honestly say I've never thought about that before.
Well, what's the number? Give me something.
I don't know, 30,000?
You're overpaying for skulls. That's the first thing you need to know. And secondly, if I really wanted to, let's say you had that $30,000.
Yeah, but I'm going to put on like a really good Hamlet production.
It would cost me. Okay, well that's
earn it back.
Sure.
Once you say there's a real skull in your Hamlet,
that skull's going to pay dividends.
Yeah.
I'm going to leverage the skull and borrow money against it.
Yeah.
Initial skull offering.
I'm just saying, I don't know why, but if you want bones, I guarantee India's a place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Are you my bone guy now?
I mean, how much
Can you
money
get us
you
bones?
got?
We're gonna call you Bones.
I like the Emily Deschanel more.
And so one other thing about this, his campaign for the BJP in 2014, according to Bloomberg, he was having these kind of like non-official yoga rallies for the BJP. The Indian Electoral Commission actually looked at these and kind of wagged their finger at him about it. But in one of them, according to Bloomberg, a BJP politician was caught on camera asking him about fundraising. And Baba Ramdev said, quote, "Are you a fool for asking and talking about money when cameras are on?" So he at least is smart enough to know that, you don't do it when the cameras are on.
Can't you see that I, someone with a zero net worth, wouldn't want to discuss money?
Isn't it crazy that Baba Ramdev is smarter than Donald Sterling? Isn't that crazy?
Wait, hold on a second. Also, maybe they can get cheap skulls, but why would you go to human skulls as a filler for your pills?
Well, I mean, it's the same reason why, Chinese billionaires use rhino horns for their dick. It's like,
I know,
it
but
doesn't make sense, but it kind of does, and that's all they need.
But if they're trying to hide that they're putting skulls in there.
I think maybe they were just putting dirt in there, and there just happened to be like masses of dead bodies.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I mean, okay, here's the thing. All of this shit is fucked up. But more importantly, it's propaganda at its highest form, and the corruption is so bad in India that no one's regulating this. He's got ties to the government. He's got over $1 billion net worth, and he's done it with seemingly 0% of the Western population knowing who he is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fucking insane.
Until this episode comes out, and then 200 people will know who he is.
Hey, 150 at most. Some people like to listen to the episodes twice.
What if we write a paper about how our episodes about white billionaires get more listeners, and we use this to prove implicit bias?
BuzzFeed. What I learned about billionaires is people only want to learn about the white billionaires.
They don't want to learn about the brown Hindu nationalist billionaire.
Let me tell you something about billionaire privilege.
Yeah, we have to.
I'm Chris Hayes.
We have to deduct $300 million from his net worth just to make up for the obstacles he faced.
Emily Deschanel was on a show called Bones. I just need all you to know.
I got it.
I don't know if you understood that or
not. She was on a show about how Baba Ramdev makes his medicine. So
it also had the bassist from Courtney Barnett's band. We can cut that.
No, it's in.
So we mentioned a bit this biography of him that was banned by an Indian court in 2017. The biography is called From Godman to Tycoon. We haven't mentioned it yet, but Godman is kind of a term in India that refers to the type of spiritual leader Baba Ramdev is, and many godmen have had various scandals where it comes out that they kept harems or castrated their followers or these kinds of things.
I mean, it's completely different from Men of the Lord in the Western world.
It's almost like he went from an ashram where you get kicked out for not having sex to going and founding one where you get kicked out for not having enough sex.
Power corrupts all, and in this case, a godman is just a charismatic guru. And what can't he get away with at this point? We talked about murder on the table. We talked about malpractice in business. We talked about corruption and hiding shit. It's one of those things where, man, this
cross-dressing.
Yes,
he could not get away with cross-dressing.
That is a true statement. He's too recognizable.
He's like, no, I cured myself with yoga. All right, so this biography we mentioned, it's called From Godman to Tycoon. It was written by Priyanka Patak Nareen, is the author, and she writes about part of the reason it was banned is because there are 3 mysterious deaths that are linked to Baba Ramdev, and I just want to kind of go through them. These are
soon to be 4.
Yeah,
Sean. It's gonna be Sean.
The first is the murder of Swami Yogananda, who was a doctor and a friend who allowed Ramdev to use his medical license for the medicine manufacturing unit that they set up in 1995. We mentioned this is kind of when they got started. And so after 8 years of operating under Yogananda's license, the alliance was dropped in 2003. Over a year after the pharmacy stopped using Yogananda's license, in December 2004, he was found dead in a pool of his own blood in his home in Haridwar. The case was closed unsolved in October 2005. That was from the author of From Godman to Tycoon. Then in 2000,
natural causes.
Then in July 2007, Ramdev's 77-year-old guru, his other guru, Shankar Dev, who gifted Ramdev his ashram and its lands, enabling him to establish the Devriya Trust, he disappeared. Shankar Dev, who lived in austerity to the end, even after the success of his disciples' ventures, went for a morning walk and never returned. He left a cryptic, garbled note about a loan he had taken and was unable to repay. At the time of the disappearance, Ramdev was on a yoga tour in the United States and United Kingdom and did not return home till the following month. He was asked at a press conference why he did not cut short his trip to, try and check up on his mentor.
Right.
And Ramdev said, quote, "If I knew he was alive, I would have." And again, that's from the author of From Godman to Tycoon.
Oh, he's really in touch with the universe.
Yeah, so, and apparently this note that this guy left before he disappeared,
what did he say?
It was something about, like, I have taken a loan that I cannot repay or something like that, or I've borrowed money that I cannot repay, and it's just kind of weird. I mean, again,
Yeah,
this
it's
is
very weird.
A guy who lived in, like, complete austerity and probably never really touched any money, to the best of our knowledge.
The trend here seems to be not that you should not give Ramdev gifts. Seems to be the through line here.
And so the last one is in 2010. Another mentor of Ramdev. It's a very dangerous position to be. His name was Rajiv Dixit, and apparently he taught Ramdev Swadeshi messaging. He died suddenly. Also, this guy was, I believe, involved in Ramdev's anti-corruption campaign. So after making a speech in Bematra canvassing for the... he and Ramdev founded the political party together that they would later kind of disband, and Ramdev would go on to support BJP. But he made a speech canvassing for the political party, and then after that, he collapsed in the bathroom in 2010, evidently due to a heart attack. He died that night, age 43. The following day, Dixit's colleagues noticed that his face was, quote, unrecognizable, a strange purple and blue. His skin was peeling strangely. They demanded a post-mortem, but Ramdev, eyewitnesses claim, refused to allow it, citing scriptural prohibition, and had Dixit's body cremated instead.
What?
And so, again, this is all from the author of the banned book, From Godman to Tycoon. And, none of that is enough to prove murder, but it all is kind of suspicious how, like, two of his mentors and the guy who gave him his business license all died under mysterious circumstances. Yeah. And it also kind of explains why so many people, in addition to his political connections, seem so afraid of him in New York Times interviews that they have to go on background just to talk about him.
They have to go on background? What does that mean?
They have to go anonymously. Like, they'll say, like, an executive at a competing
yeah.
company instead of giving their name or whatever.
Right.
So all of this is to say, Yogi, enjoy your next trip to India.
I mean, there was a
Try
great...
not to catch one of those skin-peeling heart attacks.
Skin-peeling heart attack. That's fucked up. There's this great, I don't know what it was, but I'm pretty sure it was like I Love the 80s, and people were shitting on Milli Vanilli, the band that lip-synced those songs. And Rick James said something very profound. He was just like, if someone promised you all the drugs, all the women, all the money in the world, and all you had to do was dance in tights, you'd say no. And it's very profound in this day and age, because the reality is, it's like, would you do something silly and weird to have all the power in the world? For Ramdev Baba, he has I have no money, I do yoga, and I'm this spiritual guru leader, which is its own identity. But what could you do that would be silly enough to make a world of people watch you and want to give you money? Because my fear is that this is going to happen in the United States at a level that we won't be able to control. Imagine 30 Ramdev Babas. This is just one dude that's rocking this life. But imagine 30 like $100 to $200 million people in the U.S. that are, whether they're religious or not, they are influencing a world of people via the internet and media. I don't know. It's just a scary time.
Well, stop broadcasting our plans for the podcast.
Oh, shit.
But yeah, so the New York Times did actually ask him about these murders, and he dismissed that with a smile and a wave of his hand, saying, quote, "It's not true. I am a very simple and humble and compassionate person."
Wow.
So believe who you want to. But I guess before we run out of time here, we can talk just a little bit about nationalism, though we should actually just mention his lifestyle. So apparently he does yoga every day from like 4 a.m. to, so he practices and teaches yoga every day from 4 to 8 a.m. in a hangar-like auditorium with hundreds of students and TV cameras rolling. This is from New York Times.
Rise and grind.
And then again when he can in the afternoon and evening from 5 until 7:30. And then in between he oversees the company Patanjali and its associated trusts and charitable activities. And just one other thing on the corruption, there is like a story.
Honestly, if someone was like, "Do you want $1 billion, but you have to get up at 4 a.m.?" Why have $1 billion?
That's the Howard Stern story.
Yeah.
But so, according to the first post, and again, we'll link to this on the Tumblr, this just actually came out yesterday. Baba Ramdev's Patanjali, it's been pumping money into various businesses with zero operations. Like at least, I think we calculated 65 million US dollars. We might have got the exchange rate wrong, but several tens of millions of dollars just into like businesses and subsidiaries that are apparently not doing anything,
right.
You know? So it's just kind of like interesting where we've talked about his anti-corruption work, but clearly he's moving money around in kind of a shell game kind of thing. His zero net worth money.
Yeah, I'm beginning to suspect that this guy isn't actually anti-corruption. I'm not convinced, but I'm getting there.
So I guess we'll talk about Hindu nationalism and particularly the anti-Muslim side of it, and then we can see where we're at. But you might have heard the story. India, in the state of Assam, which we mentioned, he got a 1,200 acres from the government for basically nothing to set up a factory there.
Right.
But the BJP has taken over Assam, the government, and they published a list which effectively strips about 4 million people in Assam of their citizenship. It's called, according to the BBC, the National Register of Citizens. It's a list of people who can prove they came to the state by March 24, 1971, a day before neighboring Bangladesh declared independence. India says this is needed to identify illegal Bangladeshi migrants, but essentially it's just a way of stripping 4 million, mostly Muslims, of their citizenship.
Right.
And it's just interesting where Baba Ramdev is a Hindu nationalist, and he's obviously supported Modi, who you might know from the riots in 2002.
You know, those riots that Prime Minister was a part of?
Yeah, and so the Gujarat riots, Gujarat riots, which was like, it's been alleged that Modi, as the chief minister at the time, might have stoked the violence. This is where a bunch of revenge mobs killed more than 1,000 people, mostly Muslims.
Well, to be fair, Modi was just yelling World Star over and over again. So that's not, I mean...
And in 2014, he got to meet Elmo.
Aww. Oh, Modi? I thought you meant Ramdev.
Oh, no. Modi. Elmo doesn't have Modi or Ramdev's correct sex. Elmo's a little pan, and so a little bit pan. So,
and he's a little bit rock and roll.
Elmo actually wasn't red before he met Modi. He just... but so he has this, Baba Ramdev has this quote about, basically, there was a Muslim politician who refused to chant the Bharat Mata Ki Jai, which is, I guess, a nationalist, a traditional slogan expressing reverence for India as the motherland, and it's kind of become politicized, where it's like this nationalist program, this part of the nationalist program. And so there was a Muslim politician in India who refused to chant it, and Baba Ramdev said that he would, quote, have beheaded those who refused to chant it were it not the law of the land. So he's
I mean, how could he afford it though? You know, I mean, that's he's got no money. You know, it's how could what?
But it is.
I think you underestimate the power of breathing exercises.
Well, I mean, if it could cut a man's neck, it can cut.
Have
a
you
man's
seen
neck.
how long he can collapse his
torso,
abdomen?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, you see, that ab work could split a man in half.
I mean, it's mesmerizing. I get lost watching it. I just watch it as a GIF over and over again.
Just a couple things about Baba Ramdev. His brother has been in trouble with the law at least twice. In 2013, there was an arrest warrant for his brother. His brother is Ram Bharat, who has been called, quote, Patanjali's, quote, informal CEO. This was an arrest warrant over the alleged kidnapping and imprisonment of a watchman at the company who was suspected of theft. And then the witnesses recanted and the case was dropped. But then, and this is from Bloomberg, in May 2015, Patanjali's security forces brawled with truck drivers at the company's food processing complex, leaving one trucker dead. Later, video came out of Ram Bharat appearing to encourage the guards to, beat the shit out of these truck drivers. He was arrested and held in jail for 14 days, though he was never charged. So, again, just like these kinds of things. And Patanjali, has Baba Ramdev has dismissed this all as,
It's corrupt to the core, man.
Right.
It's fucked up.
And then there've just been like a lot of stuff about the various products we've kind of mentioned. They unveiled these instant noodles when Nestle's instant noodles got banned over lead concerns.
Yeah.
But apparently, India's Food Safety and Drugs Administration found they had an ash content triple the legal limit.
Oh my God.
And then the Indian military stopped selling a popular Patanjali juice to the soldiers after a government agency found samples were, quote, unfit for consumption. It's from New York Times. They were also selling a ghee, like a cow's butter type thing. Which they advertised as the purest on the market, but apparently it was sourced...
Wait, cow's butter, did you say?
Yes.
You mean butter?
It was basically a sampling found that it was a blend of cow, buffalo, and goat milk. And apparently, according to New York Times, in India, pure ghee is required for religious purposes.
Right.
So this kind of stuff is... it matters, essentially. There have just been like a bunch of little scandals with bullshit in the products, and he's still the most trusted brand in India. So it is quite impressive. And, if a lot of the biographies and such, they talk about how his face is on like almost every corner. Apparently he wants to have SIM cards with his name on it. There's an additional
he's like a mix of, televangelist Jack LaLanne and also Gene Simmons from Kiss. Like it's a lot of I want my face on everything.
And Richard Simmons.
That's right. Yes, all the Simmons.
Yeah.
Russell as well.
All I'm saying is it's been too long since we had a vegetarian nationalist running around the world. But yeah, no, he just wants his face on all these packaged noodles, herbal constipation medicines, floor
He
cleaner.
puts on like 10 pounds and it all goes away because he can't do the ab thing anymore.
Floor cleaner made with cow urine is another thing. But it is just something where...
Yeah, cow urine's a huge thing in India.
Oh,
I've drank it once.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm. It was a religious ceremony. They put it in some yogurt.
Verdict?
I mean, I didn't do it again, so you tell me what the verdict is. But yeah, I mean, it's fucked up. I mean, not the cow piss thing. That's just but that is a indication of how far the religious right in India convinces the population of their fucking views. It's like, I don't know if cow piss is good or bad for you, but I do know I shouldn't be drinking it. And the country of India is run by a religious right that is ruining the country. They're fucking up. It's like they're like, oh, Hindus are better than Muslims. Everything should be made in India. It's like, you're just wrong and you're dumb. You don't understand that when the world mixes, things become better. And more importantly, the more you're stopping this and telling people to be against one another, you're just telling them to be less than what they could be if they work together.
Now, wait, Yogi. in this room full of 3 white dudes, this is your one chance to go full throat at Hindu nationalism and have people be too afraid to correct you. I was kind of hoping when we did this episode, Yogi would just go all in like, you don't understand what the English did to India, okay? Modi is the necessary antidote.
Wow.
They destroyed our country. Famines. And, these Western products are poison.
Here's what's crazy. Hindu nationalists actually believe the opposite.
Right.
They're like, the Europeans came in. I mean, the British came in. They gave us railroads. They gave us access to tea. They put us on the map. They look at suffering as the growth that it can be instead of the pain that it is.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same vein of I don't have any money even though I'm a billionaire, it's like the British aren't bad even though they stole our goods and gave us fucking shitty railroad tracks. They're
and starved millions of people to death.
I mean, that was going to happen regardless. Fuck you, India.
That's where you're giving them the pass.
Modi just turned off Grubstakers. Just sat back in his desk chair.
Sean, wrap this up.
Yeah,
Yogi's actually a big Churchill fan. Should.
But so, Baba Ramdev, just to kind of summarize, this billionaire nationalism, and he says this to New York Times, his idea of nationalism embraces, he says, all religions and castes, but he adds the revealing caveat, country first, which we might be familiar with. He says, this is a must. Not I'm great, my caste is great, but my country is great. Unlike Muslim leaders, they say Islam is great. I say no, the nation is great. The citizen is great. And according to New York Times, in his telling, the nation is wrapped up in a Hindu culture, which is, yoga, traditional medicine, Vedic scriptures, and such. And again, we mentioned the beheading thing. The actual quote is worse. He said, if it were not for the respect of the law, he said we would, quote, behead hundreds of thousands of such people. And that's hundreds of thousands of people who refuse to say these kind of nationalist Hindu chants. So it is just something where it's like he's been called the Billy Graham, he's been called the Donald Trump of India, but he's clearly got an in with a very nationalist government that is currently trying to disenfranchise and make illegal more than 4 million mostly Muslims. So it is something where we should keep our eye on because he's also collecting a lot of corruption money and maybe allegedly having people disappeared.
I mean, you criticize him, but can you make your abs flap like a flag in the wind?
I did like this episode because, the only way I will make the most basic effort to learn and understand about my friend Yogi is if we are doing it for a podcast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you know what, Sean? You didn't do bad.
Thanks. Thanks, buddy. All right, well, anything else about our good friend Baba Ramdev?
I think he fucks a lot. I think he's eating butt left and right. I think he doesn't have a wife, but it's not because he doesn't want a wife. It's because he just loves slanging that D.
It's like their religious duty to accept 25 to 50% less orgasms.
I'm going to say, though, eating butt with that beard, gross.
If Me Too ever hits India, man, he's going to have a negative net worth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He comes early and then he's doing the ab motion. He's like, "What? This isn't enough for you? There's nothing else. If this doesn't get you, I'm not even gonna bother." Okay.
I made some Patanjali birth control, but let's be honest, it's just Tic Tacs.
Why is he wearing human skull fragments on his penis as some sort of condom?
All right. And with that, this has been Grubstakers. Thank you very much. We'll have another episode next week. I'm Yogi Polywall.
I'm Andy Palmer.
I'm Steve Jeffers.
I'm Sean McCarthy. Check back next week. Peace.
Boop, boop, ba-doop.